الحمد لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh jami'an. I hope that all of you guys are doing well. Welcome again to another Deen Love episode. Today, we're going to switch it up a bit. Not to minimize the events that are still happening from the transpiration date of October 7th and the madness that's happening in the world and the plight that our brothers and sisters all over the world are going through, namely Gaza. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to elevate the pressure and to assist our brothers and sisters and give them relief and victory there. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us all and to inspire us with the reality of Iman and the reality of the purpose of our lives. Welcome, dear viewers, Deen lovers everywhere in America, the UK. We know we have lovers out there. We got mad love for the UK, Birmingham, Canada, we're all there. And even Somalia, there's some people in Somalia that are hitting us up. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless all of you. And we have a special guest with us today, our brother from the Dawiyans, right? He's one of the corps commanders there, Hassan Sheikh. How are you doing?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm doing good, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Hassan Sheikh Abukar. I know sometimes when I say Hassan Sheikh, a lot of people who don't know you get it confused with Sheikh Hassan. And so I say, oh, Sheikh Hassan Jami'i is his son. Like, no, it's not his son. Hassan Sheikh Abukar. And so it's a different guy. But living in the same city, alhamdulillah. Today we want to talk about something that we're not, like I said, we're not trying to minimize what's happening in the world today. But this is just a means to get to where we need to be, which is more serious in our deen. The best thing that we can do as Muslims to help our brothers that are being deprived, our brothers that are being oppressed all around the world, is to better our relationship and connection with Allah Azza wa Jal. And one of the ways that we can do it is something that is incumbent upon every male in the Sharia on the Friday who's able to, and they're not travelers, is the Friday Jumu'ah. So we're going to discuss the intricacies of the Friday Jumu'ah. This is not meant to be a fiqh podcast on the actual ahkam of the Friday congregational prayers and the sermon, but just the things that we do and common mistakes that we need to correct, right? So like I said, again, we're bringing this back. We're looking at the bigger picture, and we're looking at the long-term change of this ummah, which is fixing our ibadah and fixing our worship to Allah Azza wa Jal. So the Friday prayer is a sermon, or the Friday sermon on Jumu'ah. You could say Jumu'ah or Jumu'ah. Is something that's incumbent and it is mandatory for every male, right, who's baligh, and they must come to the sermon, and they must listen to the sermon attentively, and they must pray behind the imam. This is wajib unless they're sick or they have some sort of excuse, which the Sharia would give as a concession, a rukhsa. But the Friday prayer, let's talk about how important it is. Hassan Sheikh, talk about how important it is for the Muslim community, especially the diasporic Muslim communities that are out in the Western countries, which is not, governed by Islam, which it takes a turn for us because in the Muslim countries, on Jumu'ah, shops close down, people they go, and so you can't have really a lot of excuse to miss Jumu'ah prayer. But here you can, because the world keeps turning. The world keeps turning, even though, this is an obligation for us. So talk to us how important the Friday prayer is for us.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First and foremost, the Friday prayer is not like it's not optional.
It's not.
So some people they think that I'll just pray dhuhr, or I'll just if I miss it, they don't give it the same importance as missing like a different prayer.
Right.
So it's wajib, and every single, like the Ustad mentioned, every single male must attend. And it's very important, especially living in the West, because that may be the only time you have that sense of Islamic community around you. Because a lot of us, we work with non-Muslims throughout the week. We go to school with non-Muslims.
Right.
So that Friday is like kind of a refreshment of all the Islamic, Islamic reminders that we missed throughout the whole week. And if you get lackadaisical and if you start missing it, then without a shadow of a doubt, it's gonna portray in all the other areas of your life.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of what you value. So a Muslim should value praying the Friday prayer just as they value working and going to school. And also, I would like to add that when you go to this Friday prayer and you're surrounded by a bunch of Muslims and the sheikh is giving you an Islamic reminder, it kind of makes you, feel like you have power, or like some type of, like energy going into the week. And if you miss it, it's like you feel hopeless.
Right.
Because if you don't have that kind of protection, you got to fortify yourself.
And what's interesting is that you mentioned you feel down, but that's if you have iman.
Yeah.
And so that means a lot. If you're living in America, it's easy for you to fall off. Easy for you to fall off the ledge. And so there's people who don't even know that it's even an obligation. And there's people who don't care. Because in a place like this, it's easy not to care. You don't have to care. No one's going to hold your hand. Aside from, a little bit of the barking from the family that you may get if they care, if they care at all. And so it's an obligation. And the thing about obligations is when the community leaves it, Allah will send trials to them and tribulations to them. So it's not just as simple as, hey, one guy is sinning. We have an issue where a huge section of the population and the demographic here is starting to leave off the prayer in general, not just the Friday prayer itself. As the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Inna hada yawm Eidin." He said, this day is a Eid for you, in the hadith of Ibn Majah, right? And so this is a Eid, and this is a weekly Eid. Let's talk about what should a Muslim do to prepare to get to the Friday prayer.
And for me specifically, or just people who attend the Friday prayer consistently, it's not an easy feat.
No.
It's not easy. I will be honest, you have to schedule at least 1 to 2 hours out of your whole Friday.
Right.
And depending on where you go, and even you have to prepare before, and you have to wait throughout the whole khutbah. You don't know how long it's going to be. And so you have to have a lot of time prepared. So beforehand, in order to prepare, firstly you have to be free at that time. A lot of people, when we try to bring them back to the masjid, they just have excuses of work and school. And if somebody's telling you, if somebody's taking classes at that time and they're deliberately putting their class at that time, or getting a job, and you tell them, you can easily find a job.
Basically, they don't prioritize Deen here.
If they're not, because they're saying, I'd rather work, I have to work, or I have to go to school. And the thing is, sometimes it feels like they're not even trying to fight for that concession. Because sometimes you'll get concessions from some jobs, or even school, you can talk to your professor. So the first thing to prepare is you have to be free at that time in order to go, And after you're free, then next you have to know how to prepare. A lot of people don't know how to prepare, like you mentioned. They come to the masjid and just all in pajamas, shambles.
So let's start from the beginning. You're at home. You wake up on a Friday, right? Which Friday, the Jumu'ah in the Sharia, it begins when? It begins the sunset the night before. So sunset of Thursday is when Jumu'ah begins.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, what are some of the things you're recommended to do in terms of the Quran and things like that?
In terms of the Quran, it's good to read. There's many hadith that explain to read Surah Al-Kahf specifically. Some of the hadith mention to read the first 10 ayat if you can, or the last 10. But it's better if you're able to read the full thing. And I would advise that it's better to do it like you mentioned as soon as the Jumu'ah,
Yes.
like the time comes in. It's better to do it as soon as possible.
So Thursday sunset.
Yeah,
right?
Thursday sunset. It's better to do it as soon as possible because I even see it myself. If you delay it, you're more likely to miss it. So it's better to do it as early as possible. So you can literally start your Friday, what we call it here, at Thursday night.
Right.
Read
So
the
now,
Surah
so now let's move together.
Yeah.
You could read at that time, or you could read throughout the day of a Friday,
Yeah.
which it's considered Jumu'ah from Thursday sunset to Friday sunset. You could read Surah Al-Kahf. You don't have to, but it's a highly recommended act. You wake up in the morning. What's the one thing you're supposed to do in terms of freshening up yourself?
Okay, so once you wake up that Friday morning, I believe the rule after Fajr is when the ghusl is good to take the ghusl.
Right.
So you should take the
Ritual bath.
the ritual bath after the Fajr, and some people do it before the Friday prayer, like right before. That's what I personally do. So take that ritual bath. That's as soon as possible, whenever you have the
Yeah.
time. So it could be even after Fajr, or it could be before the Friday prayer. And do you want to explain kind of how to take that ritual bath? Because a lot of people don't know.
No, I mean that's his own podcast.
Okay.
I think we would refer individuals. There's a lot of videos you could watch on how to make ghusl, and this is not the purpose of that kind of podcast to get into the deep intricacy details of the jurisprudence. So the ritual bath, after taking it, you're supposed to wear clothes. Talk about that. Like what are you supposed to wear? Any sort of fragrances.
Okay, so after your ritual bath, you're supposed to put on your best clothes, the best clothes that you have. Like you mentioned, it's Eid, and you're going to some place that's very honorable, and you should be wearing your best clothes, preferably white. So if you have white, wear your white clothes, and inshallah, that'll be sufficient. Also, wear perfume, attire. It's amazing to wear attire. If you have cologne, some others who have the hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of cologne, you gotta wear your best one on Friday, and inshallah, just freshen up, wear clean clothes, act like you're going somewhere that's important.
Yeah,
you know?
And you know what's interesting is the other religions, they take certain days like this of the week as a very special day.
Yeah.
The Yehud on the Saturday, Yom Sebt, and then you have the Christians on the Sunday.
Yep.
The Christians really, they show out. They wear their suits, they wear their $100 suits, and they wear, everything like that.
What do they call it? Sunday's best?
Yeah, Sunday's best, and I think they have a Good Friday, which is the Friday before Easter, I think it is. And they call that your Friday best, so Sunday best.
Yeah.
And they really take pride in what they wear. What do you see when it comes to the dress wear of the Muslims, in Jumu'ah?
Okay. Firstly, before people like call us haters, if you're coming to the Friday prayer, it's better than not coming. Alhamdulillah. That's what I would like to add there. It's better than not coming. But if you are going to come, then you should come appropriate. What we see is like, unfortunately, is like pajamas, sweatpants, like hoodies with the craziest designs. Not even the design hoodies.
Designs.
Sometimes you see
is wild.
a horn coming out, faces. I don't know what. But some of these clothing is like, it's just insane. Like maybe you see a white tee.
Yeah.
And it's just like they're somebody probably just came out the gym, just came to the masjid.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing to. There's not a specific thing. I know people are expecting us to say you have to wear a thobe and a kufi, and it's probably one of the better things you can wear for sure. But it's not something that's mandatory for you to wear. Just make sure you're wearing something nice. If you wear a dress shirt and the pants, a suit, that's great. But whatever you're wearing should be nice, right? And I think this is something we don't prioritize because. And the mindset of many Muslims is just another Friday that we have to go to the masjid. Then afterwards, we're not going to do anything special. So why am I going to wear something nice? just wear a t-shirt, sweatpants that has bisbas stains on it, and I'm gonna go and to Jumu'ah prayer because it's wajib, And so Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says in the Quran, bring your zina to every prayer. To every prayer, Ibn Abbas, and he says that this means every salah. It says, the ayah of the Quran says, bring your zina to every masjid. But Ibn Abbas says that means every salah. Now, the Jumu'ah is a special day. Like we just said, the Prophet ﷺ says the Eid of the week. So when you think of Eid, contrast from Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, people are dressing really nice.
Yeah.
But for the Friday, the Eid of the week, they're not dressing as nice. Why do you think that is?
I think it's just a culture thing, like you mentioned. So during, for example, my father's time, he used to explain that when they were going to the Friday prayer, he used to see his elders, like his dad and his uncles and his grandparents. Mind you, this is Somalia. He used to see them wear their best clothes. Not only that, but they're going to the prayer hours earlier, like an hour early. They go into the masjid. As you know, the one who comes, and like in the earlier you come, the more reward that you will get.
Yes.
So they're going early, and they're treating it as something that matters. So they're going early. They're walking there because they're reward for walking. They're sitting down. They're reading the Quran, and they're dressing appropriately because it really matters to them. It's like something that they desire, and once the Friday is over, they can't wait for another Friday because of all the reward. Right. But for us, it's like a DoorDash thing. You want to get in, the imam, he starts speaking about a topic. You're checking your watch every 5 minutes. You don't want to be there.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be there, you're not gonna dress like you want to be there. It's simple, like what it calls psychology.
We're gonna talk about the ahkam or inside the prayer itself, not the ahkam, but we're gonna talk about the things that we usually see and the common mistakes of the attendees there. But one thing you mentioned is important. This is probably a lot of people will be asking. They'll see a guy who parks so far away and walks. It's like, why did he do that? This guy, and this person thinks they're smarter for parking closer, and it's the footsteps to the masjid that they're walking there. They get rewarded, as the hadith mentions, right? So these are what you would consider. Today they say on TikTok. What do they say for shortcuts? They have like a terminology that they use, a hack, right? This is what they say, a hack. It's a hack. And what's the hack? A lot of the things that Allah tells us about what to do, walking, every footstep you take, dressing nice, the Sunnah mentions and emphasizes smelling good. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, the thing that I love from your dunya is an-nisa wal-tib, and fragrance. And he says, وَجُعِلَتْ قُرَّةَ عَيْنِي فِي صَلَاتِي. He says, and my eyes were made, the coolness of my eyes were made in the prayer, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, he puts an emphasis on this. He likes smelling good. Although he didn't have a lot of wealth in his life, right? Not something he kept, but usually it was moving a lot. He was given a lot of sadaqah, moving with the state. But he made sure to smell good. He even said, if somebody offers you, one of the things if they offer you is fragrance, don't reject it. It's one of the things that you should not reject if they offer you fragrance. But today, again, we're not putting emphasis on this. We're not smelling good. We're coming to the masjid. Perhaps we're smelling bad. And there's people who maybe their socks are not clean. It's very tragic. So invest in perfume, invest in good clothing that you can wear to the Jumu'ah prayer. Okay.
And you gotta make Friday meaningful for you. Make it let's say before the Friday prayer, make it a time where you do your ibadah. Some people, they live a fast lifestyle, and there's people who have to pay bills, people who have to take care of kids. You're trying to get your degree and everything. Make the Friday, before the Friday prayer, make a time for your ibadah. If you don't have any other time, make it that Friday. Before the prayer, do your ibadah, do your adhkar, recite your dhikr, and then treat yourself to something good after. So make it a day that, the reason why Eid is something that's so has a lot of festivities and is something that's valued is because people make it valuable. They do things that are valuable. They come together with family, they come together with their friends, and they do things. So if you don't value the whole day then you're not gonna find happiness in the little things. You know?
Yeah, and the little things, and probably the rest of your deen at that.
Yeah.
So now we're walking footsteps. We get into the masjid after making the dua. Bismillah, Allahumma ftah li abwab rahmatik. We're inside the masjid. Now what do you see? You see a shoe rack.
Yes.
Now, depending on what time you get to the masjid, what are you looking at here?
The shoe rack. Mm-hmm. The shoe rack is insane. It's like you gotta make sure you find your way through.
Yeah, the shoe rack.
Just finding the shoes everywhere, mismatched shoes. Like people just came in and just it's like a tornado hit it. So that's something very small, but it says a lot about the community. I would say I don't want to go as far as say the ummah, but it's the community.
Well, I think this level of nizam and organization, there's a lot of statements that can be made about the organization of the shoe rack. People just throw stuff. You know, if there's a shoe rack there, put your shoe there. What are the consequences of you not putting your shoes in the proper place?
Firstly, if you're not putting your shoes in the proper place, they can get misplaced. Mm-hmm. They can hinder others because there's elderly people that come to the masjid.
Yeah. Disabled.
There's disabled elderly people and your size 15 LeBrons.
Wow.
They're out blocking the way. Nobody can walk through the place.
Size 15 LeBrons, huh? So may Allah guide him and his whole team and all the basketball players and athletes of the world. So people are getting hurt. And I think I want to make some time for the disabled and the handicapped community here of the Muslims. So there's parking spots. The parking spots that are designated for handicapped people, oftentimes if you're a desperate person trying to get your Friday prayer in, what are we looking at here?
So people come like this is you're parking there and you're not handicapped, so you're hindering other people, and that's illegal. Firstly, that's the first part. It's illegal, and
it's just inconsiderate.
But that's one thing. At least you're in a parking spot. There's some people who don't even park.
Wow.
They just leave their car like in the middle of the road. The middle of the road.
They go
because you know why?
The prayer. They know what time the salah is happening.
They know what time. They know what time the imam is getting to the salah.
Yes.
They're the last one in the door, and the first one out the door. The last one in, first one out.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna totally say it's a hack. They say I know a hack. I parked my car here. Subhanallah.
And so the ulama, they mentioned about not. I think it was Ibn Hajar. He spoke about this issue of not intending not to harm people, right? You get rewarded for intending to hold back or withhold any sort of harm that you can inflict others. Say, for example, the parking spot of the disabled, the handicapped individuals. If you go by that parking spot and you see it has that label there, and you say to yourself, it's getting late, but I am going to not park there so that other people who need that parking spot can park there. That this is something that Allah will reward you for, to hold back harm, right? Because you're being considerate. Two, the person who needs it is going to have that avenue to take advantage of those type of concessions, right? And this is something as a Muslim Muslim community, we need to do. We think a lot, especially in the West, we think so much about ourselves. This is called being self-centered, right? I need to pray. Even in our ibadah, subhanAllah, I need to pray. I don't care who's there. You know, if you're you move or get ran over, basically. This is the mentality we have, right? Because I need to do this, and I don't care about what's happening to you. I don't care about your situation. And so we're supposed to have this empathy for each other's. And it's ironic that we don't have it for each other, but we cry about other Muslims across the world. and simple things like this we are not able to do. So now we're in the prayer. The person makes the adhan. By the way, a lot of people wait for the adhan to pray their sunnah. But when it comes to the Jumu'ah prayer itself, just the Jumu'ah prayer, not the other 5 daily prayers, when the adhan is going on, you should pray. Because the wajibat take precedence over the sunnah. So listening to the adhan and waiting for it is sunnah, but listening to the khatib is wajib. So praying and making your prayer brief takes precedent here than waiting for the adhan to finish. So that's that. Now we're sitting inside of the musalla. We're sitting and we're listening to the imam. He begins the khutbah. He begins with إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره. What do you see now? Of course, most of the people are going to be paying attention. What are some of the common mistakes that you see?
Some of the things that I see personally is the biggest mushkila that we have in our society today. And one of the biggest mushkilas is the phone. So you see people scrolling on their phone, text messaging, scrolling through social media. Obviously, it might be like a certain age group doing that, but irregardless of what you're doing, you should not be on your phone. When the khatib is giving the khutbah, you should not be on your phone at all. You should have it off and paying attention. Other stuff we see is people having conversations.
Wow.
Like you didn't see your friend for a long time. I seen this with my own eyes. When the imam's up there giving the khutbah, we're walking in and just dapping each other up, having a full-blown conversation in the back. Just, how you been, everything. And socializing.
And they basically are just killing time so that they hear the adhan. Like they hear the iqamah.
Iqamah, yeah.
Subhanallah. Wow. So, okay, we see that, some people are not paying attention. This is a common thing now. I see it a lot in the khutbah where they're just people that are on their phones. People are on their phones. You have some guy who's reading Quran. What are you reading Quran for right now? Like this is a time for that you have to listen. The emphasis is there. The Prophet ﷺ, he emphasized for people to listen. The Sahaba, they knew that, right? And they paid all their attention. So to the khatib who's speaking, and it's a powerful thing if we utilize it properly. So the khatib is speaking, and even the fuqaha say that the one who speaks inside, while they're supposed to be listening to the khatib, that their Jumu'ah is spoiled. It's gone.
SubhanAllah.
And we're not thinking about these things. And this has to do with the outside and the external stimulants that are there. People are so social media and AI and everything. And so this just is one of those, cultural practices that we do. And it's not really a big deal. And let me see what's going on in my Instagram.
Yeah. And before I mention one thing, some of the shuyukh, they even mentioned, don't twiddle with your fingers. Don't even shake your leg. Do the small, tiny movements. Your full focus should be on the khatib giving the khutbah. But also, like you were mentioning, it comes from our culture. Like back in the day, for example, let's say in a classroom setting, if you're in university, you have to pay attention. The professors won't allow you to not pay attention. But now, if you go to any campus, people are there they're there physically, but they're not even there. They're watching shows. They're just having full meals on their phones. So sleeping. And the professor can't do nothing because it's a culture.
There's people who sleep.
Sleep, 100%. Yeah, sleep. I haven't seen anybody sleep during the Friday prayer. But
I've seen people sleep during the Friday prayer.
I've never seen that. But that's what I'm saying. It's a culture. If the professor, he doesn't even have the power, or the khatib, if he says something, then he's going to be looked at as somebody who's,
that's true.
Being extreme. When he says,
true.
Get off the walls. Even that is one thing. People are,
wow.
The Masjid, the first row is empty.
Is crazy.
And the wall guys, he goes all the way to the back. And there's a hadith, inshallah, I'll find it. And he says, the closer you are to the imam, it's a hadith. Maybe obviously it's more rewarding if you're closer.
I mean we know that the best lines for the men are the front.
Yeah.
and the best lines for the women are the back.
Yeah.
The last lines and the best line and the worst lines for the men are the back lines, and the worst lines for the women are the front.
Yeah.
So that's how when women come into the masjid, they should start from the back, filling it up from the back. The guys should start filling it up from the front. You know, you have older men that are sitting in the front, and you have younger guys
Yeah.
who their physical capabilities are so different, and one can have an excuse over the other. The guy sits on the back wall. There's one thing we missed about the apparel. I want to talk about it because I see this a lot happening. Hair, we're gonna take it there to the hair. Let's talk about the hair, brother, because I think every community is different, of course. The East African community has an interesting relationship with hair.
Yeah.
What do you notice? What's going on?
So this is like an age-old debate about the hair.
Usually, it's older people in the community that are saying something about it.
Yeah, there's people the elders in the community that they have a pretty fair argument. I don't think they're personally against the idea of just growing it out.
Yeah, long hair.
But it's like people don't take care of it.
They don't.
And not only that, I don't know if you know this. Maybe this might be a little bit older. Maybe younger. The younger generation, there's actually styles where you're not supposed to take care of it.
That's crazy.
I don't know if you heard of that. Yet. There's a style where it's called like.
Did I hear about it? I see it.
I mean, you do see it. That's a great point.
It's like
but
a jungle.
Like freeform. You know what that means? Like the freeforms.
Oh no, they have a
like
name for it. They don't have a name.
It's called freeforms, where the whole goal is you don't take care of it. Like you leave it at a certain style until you don't wash it for a couple of days, so it can. But yeah, so like the way like the styles that we're seeing, like I always say, once you allow like the door to open a little bit, people are just gonna run through it.
Oh my god!
So if you give one concession, you give an inch, they take a mile, like I mentioned. So they start with these crazy hairstyles, and then they're not taking care of it on the most important day that they're supposed to. First of all, it shows that you probably haven't showered, you haven't oiled or combed your hair, like simple things. And there's hadiths where people came up to the Prophet Muhammad and they didn't have their hair, they were disheveled, and he told them to go back and take care of it.
Yeah.
And I believe it wasn't even fighting.
You know, the Prophet ﷺ actually referred to that man. We're gonna pull up the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ, is it up? Okay. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in that hadith that man had. He called it. You have hair that resembles shaitan's hair. Like he looks like a shaitan. That's what he said. Right? And so if the Prophet is saying that about a guy whose hair is disheveled, then what about people who, and I know this is an age-old debate. I think right now we're starting to move away from the whole Minnesota nice type of da'wah thing, which is good. Because before we would be like, well, at least they're coming to the masjid. Bro, you've been here for like 5-7 years. You're not even one of the guys that we're concerned about. Yeah. You just come here and you look dusty. Yeah. All right. Do something with your hair. Cut it off. Yeah. I'm 100% behind. It's not even a parent issue. It's an Islamic issue, bro. You're ambassador of the Deen. You're looking dusty, bro. Yeah. This doesn't have to do with old or young people. How could you walk around with your hair? Like, he's not even lining up. Even the guy, the free form guy, they probably line up. They get lineups. Yeah, they do. This guy doesn't get lineups. Yeah. He just has hair, and it's just all over crazy. Talking about the guy who probably just like doesn't care. He just walks out of his house. He wakes up, goes to sleep like that. SubhanAllah. Yeah. And so, guys, first, you're gonna have a hard time getting married in your life. Wallahi, billahi, yotallahi, you will have a hard time getting married in your life. You know why? Sisters don't forget. When they see hair like that and you have like a track record and you just don't care with consistency, they'll remember you. Even if you fix up, they'll be like, you remember that was that one guy for 7 years. He was pushing that. You see what I'm saying? People remember. And I remember asking this brother one day, I pulled him out, or I saw him in the Masjid parking lot. And they're doing these, they're braiding hair now, twisting up hair. That's what they're doing, right? Yeah. It's an imitation of the kuffar. We're going to talk about that soon. But he had it like his hair like twisted or braided, and he was hiding it. Obviously, he's ashamed. So I said to him, I said, be honest. If there was a guy who came to you, okay, let's say you have a daughter in the future, inshallah, and there's a guy who came to you that looked like you right now, and he asked for your daughter's hand in marriage, would you marry her off to him? He said, hell no. And it's like, we know what we're doing. It doesn't benefit you at all. It doesn't benefit you in the social life, and it doesn't benefit you in the deen. Your community they don't think high of you when you look like that. And then also the outside world where you actually need to, make a living, where it does matter, where the big money is. They don't want to work with you because look at you, your hair, right? Yeah. Business people, they look at stuff like that and they say, bro, you're talking to me about, getting this and flipping that. Look at your hair.
Now, hair is very important.
So discipline is a huge part of Islam, right? And so when we look at the Sunnah, when the Prophet is advising us about hair, advising us about smelling good, we're ambassadors, meaning that we're Muslims. Non-Muslims are going to look at us. When they see Muslims, they're going to look at us. When they hear about Islam and they're asked to comment about it, they're going to think about us. Yeah. And you may be the one guy that they remember. The guy that had ketchup stains on his shirt, and then his hair was frizzy crazy. That's the guy they remember, and they say, yeah, I know some Muslims.
Because it begs the question, who's influencing you? Because I know you're not getting that from the shuyukh and the scholars and the da'is and the ustads and the teachers and your Quran teacher on Saturday, Sunday. He's not telling you to get dreads and braids. Mm-hmm. So once you come up in that clothing, you kind of like shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah. Because even if you're calling to good, because we see some brothers, they call to good, but they're not following the appropriate apparel that a da'i or somebody who's a Muslim should wear. Like even your hair. So I feel like it's a hill that a lot of people die on, and it's an ego thing, 100%. Yeah. Because people have to accept me for what I am. I'm not changing my hair. I'm not doing this.
And that's also ideologies we have to get down to that influence us and are making up high building blocks of our personality. Mm-hmm. So one issue about the hair is qaza'. Yeah. Which is the Prophet, he forbid a certain type of hair called qaza', mm-hmm. where you have a part of your hair and you shaved other parts of your hair. And the Prophet ﷺ, he prohibited this kind of hairstyle. What that translates to in today's hairstyles and haircuts is a discussion with the fuqaha. We're not going to get into that. The second issue is the imitating the kuffar. The imitating the kuffar is that we see non-Muslims with certain hairstyles in the pop culture, celebrities, rappers, artists, movie, stars, and we want to wear that same thing, and we attribute it to the Quran and Sunnah. So all while the Prophet had braids, the Prophet didn't do what you're doing. See what I'm saying? Yeah. And so these are all important issues to look at it from. Guys, we have to fix up. A lot of us know even the truth. We just are, we're just being lazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also for this aspect, I don't want to get too deep into the hair thing, but just coming from a practical viewpoint, a lot of the, even us, when you have shorter hair or when you cut your hair and you have like appropriate hair, you can wear certain types of like Islamic apparel, like we call it kofis and the imamas. What's the correct term for it?
There's the imamas. You can say shemal.
Shemal, yeah. Well, wearing the shemal, the imamas, it can actually be like an opportunity to call people to the deen. Yeah, call people to the deen, and it shows that you have like some Islamic commitment. Mm-hmm. It humbles yourself.
People respect you too.
Yeah, and you respect yourself.
Yep.
You can tell the difference between somebody. If you ask them, the ultimate goal is to be the best Muslim, right? So, if let's say you're wearing your Nike Tech and you have your dreads, versus when you're wearing your thobe and you have your kufi on, there's a difference.
There's a big difference.
It's a big difference of how you approach a life.
Absolutely.
Of where the places you're going, who you're talking to, who you're associating to, where you want to be seen. Yep. I'd say you...
And it shows the general people that, hey, you're a guy who stands on your 2 feet.
Yeah.
If you find yourself in places where you're the only guy with a thobe, that's not an easy thing to do. But the fact that you can hold out and be like, you know what, I don't care. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whether the thobe or not, it's something where the Prophet ﷺ wore.
Yeah.
But just wearing it and identifying it as a Muslim and what a Muslim looks like in your time and day, um, and sticking out that way, this is a good method to be someone who is more faithful to their way of life. The people who don't like you are not going to like you. The people who like you, it's whatever. Alhamdulillah, they accept you, they respect you. But if you always look like everybody else and you're doing what everybody else does, you're just another number, in the chain. You're just another pea in the pot. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so we bring it back to a hadith like the strangers, right? People that not necessarily stand out for having clothes of fame or those sort of things, but just being someone who is consistent and being faithful and loyal to the Muslims. You are someone who's aligned. Your clothing and your apparel, you look like a Muslim. They know that. You want them to know that, right? And what does that do? That protects you from a lot of harm, a lot of sin, a lot of shayateen, a lot of people who don't want to be around people like that because they themselves are influenced by the thoughts and the sways of shaitan.
And also, like, just not only for the hair, but like just apparel, even or mostly the hair. There's people who it draws them away from the masjid.
Yeah.
I know many people who said, "I got braids, I can't come to the masjid." I don't know where they put the one. Do the math. I promise you, I hear this so many times. And whoever's like watching has probably heard that before, or if you know anybody, they say things like, "I have braids, I have dreads, man. I can't go to the masjid.
Yeah.
I can't do this or that." And it's just like if you're willing for your hair to drag you away from the masjid, then man, that's just a sad way to live.
That's a sad way.
If you're willing to,
and also I would say for those people who choose to have a shorter hairstyle, the benefits is you're not going to spend a lot of time on your hair. You'll be surprised how much time you saved in the bathroom. There's guys who just, out of the shower, 1 hour, just looking at themselves, the different types of hair, ponytail, looking at the different styles they can go out. And that's not really a masculine thing. That's not really a masculine thing to do, right? So now let's talk about the festivities to partake in after the Friday prayer.
Maybe not in our culture so much, but in terms of like American culture. But when I was in a Muslim country, and I visited after Friday prayer, it's a time where people come together, go out to eat. Everybody's inviting you.
Yeah.
You have 15 invites. You have to choose which one you want to choose.
Yeah.
All the restaurants are packed. Even the playgrounds are packed. It's like it literally feels like an Eid. Everybody's wearing their best clothing. Everybody's outside, and I would say that if you're gonna do like activities, try to do it on a Friday.
Yeah. So get together with family and friends on the Friday. Really make it a special day. Now, of course, we're not asking you to spend gajillions of dollars every Friday.
Yeah.
But within your means, be reasonable. But do something to where you can actually mark it down as this is a special day. You know what I'm saying? You want to make Friday special. Don't be that guy that after Friday prayer, you just go home and sleep.
Yeah.
Right. Don't make that a normal thing to do. Make sure on a Friday. And then also, lastly, I want to end with this, which is something you kind of spoke about, is prioritizing your deen over dunya, which is when it comes to the Friday prayer, anything that you're doing, which is classes, the first day of the class, you need to let your professor know, hey, I'm a Muslim. I pray. There's going to be times where I go and I pray. I'm going to step out for a little bit. I pray. Friday prayer, this is my situation. This is what I have to do. Yeah, you're probably not going to a masjid, but maybe you're going to a student club, the MSA, they have a Friday prayer. Tell them, I got to step out, right? Do something. But first, even before that, you should prepare, like the brother was saying, is you should prepare. Don't take classes at a time that you know is going to conflict with your deen. right? If you don't need to do that, try to avoid it. But speak to your professors, speak to your boss, and you know what? They'll always respect you for it. They'll always respect you. But don't be that guy that just, they're never going to listen to me, and I'm just going to take the class and I'm going to combine all my prayers at home. Be that kind of guy. You know, you're going to find yourself in a spiritual mess, darkness. Yeah.
Especially if you're doing that for the obligations. If you're like selling out on the obligations, how about the Sunnahs, which is like it's the cherry on top that makes you feel good about after you do your wajibat. Yeah. Also, would you like to mention after the Friday prayer in terms of like the hour before Maghrib?
Yeah. I mean, there's an hour there that, you know, if you make a dua, it's accepted. You know, there's a lot of things that are going on. The Friday prayer is a blessed day. It's a day where Allah created Adam, I believe, the day where the world will come to an end. These are all important things. But guys, we want to emphasize the wajibat. Let's start there first. Okay, the best thing you could do to help your brothers and sisters that exceeds even money and all that, the protesting, which we're not saying is good or bad at this moment. We're going to have a special podcast about that where we break it down and the boycotting. But the best thing you could do is you rectify your affairs and situation with Allah. That's the best thing you could always do, right? Is there anything else you want to end off with?
I'm probably going to end off with the statement you just mentioned. When people try to, like you were mentioning, the best thing you can do is know your role. There's nothing better than a person who knows their role, a role player. You know your role and thrive at it. Meaning, there's only so much stuff we can do to help. But if the things that you can do, which is what make a dua, send aid, or let's even stick with make dua. That's probably the most powerful weapon we have that we can do. Yes. So if you're gonna make a dua, you want it to do it. You want to have it the highest possibility of it being accepted. Maximize. And for that to happen, you have to be the best Muslim you can be.
Yes.
Staying away from leaving off your sins and increasing your righteous actions. So like you're mentioning, if you're somebody who lives in like where we live in, the country we live in the West, try your best to be the best Muslim. And you should be fulfilling all your wajibat.
That's right.
You should be increasing in knowledge because, for example, when people are training, when they're training for a sport, you know, you don't want to be a liability. You don't want to be like, for example, when you make a dua, you don't want to be a liability for the ummah.
Nah, that's true.
And you see, when they're training for sports, each person, they know their role.
Yes.
So he might be a role player and he's going the hardest in the gym. He's going the hardest because he knows that he wants to do his role at a maximum ability. So I would say, inshallah, just increase, even if it sounds like, some people say it sounds defeatist.
Defeatist mentality.
Just make dua. But no, that's the most powerful weapon.
Yeah.
How can you be defeated if you have the most powerful weapon? But you got to use that weapon wisely. So I would just say increase in righteous actions and leave off sins and be the best person you can be, inshallah.
And so we're going to end with that. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Until next time, we're going to break down some of these other issues of protesting, boycotting, the effectiveness when we have Sheikh Susi on here. Inshallah, guys, until next time, I hope you guys benefited. May Allah assist us in the ummah and forgive all of us. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.